Hi, Professor Ken Purnell here. We're going to have a look at the second assessment task in the neuroscience of memory and learning. Now, it's an extended response worth 80% and it's a briefing to colleagues. So think immediately the audience, who am I talking to? People in my workplace. Your supervisor, such as a school principal, and a number of our folk are, of course, teachers in schools and so on. And so the supervisor, whoever that is, in whatever setting you've got, has asked you to provide a paper, and it's your choice how you wish to frame that up. Most of us will probably use various headings for the various areas that we're talking about and so on, of about 3,500 words. And we're again saying to you, look, that's a reasonable indication you could cover the various areas in that length. Some would like to go into a bit more depth, a bit further, that's fine, but all grades are available for students at the 3,500 words, of course. And we're not trying to cut you short, if you like, or say there's a minimum and a maximum, but just indicative of that length. The important bit, what's the topic? Applying ideas about quality learning environments to enhance learning and memory. You go, righto. Well, with the various resources I've looked at, the textbooks, and of course on our Moodle site, the various topics, I've had readings, I've had all sorts of things associated with videos and in a whole bunch of different areas on learning and memory. Now, out of all that, what I'm going to try and do is bring together something that's going to be valuable for my professional audience that I'm considering about applying ideas on quality learning environments to enhance learning and memory. In doing this, the supervisors asked you to include some discussion. It doesn't say lots of or little of, just cover a little bit. The stress response on learning, contemporary developments in learning and memory, the role of sleep, the processes of neural proliferation and consolidation to enhance memory and increase expertise, as well as other areas. Because you might say, oh yeah, I can cover those ones fairly easily. Back in my first assessment task, I covered sleep or whatever you did. What I now want to do is, I've really learned some fantastic things from the textbooks or some other resources that I've engaged with in the Moodle site or other ones too, that I wish to also consider about learning and memory. And so in doing this, touch base with those quite obviously, and for some people this will form the major part of what they do. But that gives you that latitude. You're the professional thinking about, well, what would be of real significance for my intended audience here, and making those sort of decisions that what you want to focus on. Okay, you should include as an appendix, remember that with your word count, for example, it starts with the word introduction and finishes with the last word before the word references. Then you have your references listed down. And then, of course, any appendixes after that. So that is not included in the word count. So just keep that in mind as you do an intro to the last word before the conclusion or implications, whatever it is you're talking about, the last word before the references. Includes an appendix your response to the first assessment task, where you've looked at one or two areas in some depth, reflected upon the implications for your practice. And basically there, make sure that you don't self-plagiarise by reproducing material from the first one and the second one. You say, oh, I've done 1,500 words there, I'll just a couple thousand more and I've done it. No. The idea is that you'll provide some fresh and very useful material for your colleagues, and you'll have an appendix, the statement somewhere in your text there that, well, I looked at sleep and there's a lot of information on it. You might want to write a paragraph on it. See Appendix A for details, the one on sleep, whatever it is that you did in the first assessment task. Now ensure at your response at a minimum you provide in-text citations using references, giving clear evidence of using, citing directly or indirectly. Now most students will be indirect rather than inverted commas, but if you do make any direct quotes, of course, just put it in inverted commas, cite the page number or paragraph number or whatever it is as per the APA. But in many of your instances, you'll be talking about things that you'll probably be using it indirectly and telling your story, weaving your story through and say, oh, Willis said this and whatever it might be. And any other resources you've got, such as, for example, the unit textbooks that we have, Gluck et al. And Tokuhama Espinosa, and our Moodle site resources, and any others that you might have used to inform your paper. So a very clear focus there is about your audience and talking about this particular area, covering certain things as we mentioned before, won't highlight them all. With that then, we have in our outcomes for the unit 5, and with those 5, we've put 2 together, specify and explain, but for analysis, we'll give you 15 marks out of the 80, and 20 and so forth, as you can see there. And again, that requirement that you communicate very effectively, whatever you're talking about. So when you look at the analysis, for example, to analyse, it's worth 15. On the university descriptors, of course, of an HD is 85 and above percent. When you look at analysis out of 15, go down here, these are the sorts of qualities in your work, the evidence we would see in your work for those higher marks. Likewise, when you take the next criterion of, for example, here, synthesize, and we go down there, get down to synthesize, and with that, marked out at 20, and for the higher marks, again, these are the sorts of qualities that we'll see in your work. So look, hopefully that's of some use to you, to get a bit of a feel for the task. It really does provide you great scope to think about the things that you've learnt and to hit those areas that you really have found very valuable. So all the very best for that, and very much looking forward to looking at and reading those responses in due course.